Port that faces towards the space-facing side of the Russian segment on board the International Space Station, and they're going to be joining the current station residents on board, Expedition 47 Commander Tim Kopra of NASA, Flight Engineer Yuri Malenchenko of Roscosmos, and Tim Peake from the European Space Agency. On board the station, having arrived on December 15th of last year, they're going to return home in their Soyuz TMA-19M in early June, a few months from now. Here in Houston, this afternoon and this evening, the team in Mission Control is going to be monitoring tonight's launch and getting updates on the flight from their Russian counterparts. Today's flight director is Courtney McMillan. She's currently taking control of the team from outgoing Orbit 2 flight director Judd Freeling, and the Capcom for launch today is going to be NASA astronaut Doug Wheelock there in the blue shirt. Just a reminder, if you want to ask Doug some questions, he's going to be on Twitter on his handle at @astro_wheels, answering questions for a few hours, and you can use the hashtag AskNASA. But during the Soyuz's climb to orbit, tracking and telemetry is downlinked to ground stations along the flight path and routed back to the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. So right now, though, we are 53 minutes and change away from the launch of the next three crew members for Expedition 47 to the International Space Station. At this point, the vehicle's control systems have been prepared. The gyros that handle the attitude activated. We just got a report that the crews have completed their leak checks on board just about 10 minutes ago or so. The mission's going to be launching under the call sign Burlak, an old Russian term for workers who pulled river barges and vessels upstream. Burlak was chosen by Ovchinin in tribute to his hometown of Rybinsk, Russia, one of the oldest Slavic settlements on the Volga River, and the site of an active Burlak workforce during the 17th and 20th through the 20th centuries of the Russian Empire. And the talisman that you may see hanging over the commander during an ascent is a small toy owl chosen by Ovchinin and given to him his young daughter to take along on his mission. So two spaceflight veterans and one first-time flyer going to be launching today aboard Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft to the International Space Station. Veteran NASA astronaut, fourth trip into space today and his third aboard a Soyuz. His first spaceflight was nearly 16 years ago aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-101, which outfitted the International Space Station with critical supplies in preparation for the arrival of its first crew, Expedition 1, just 6 months later. His next two trips, though, into space were aboard Soyuz vehicles to the International Space Station, where he served as a flight engineer of Expedition 13 in 2006, and Expedition 21 in 2010. And then he went on to command Expedition 22. During his 6-month mission, Williams is going to become the new American record holder for cumulative days in space, 534, surpassing Expedition 46 Commander Scott Kelly, who wrapped up his one-year mission on March 1st. Williams is first going to serve as a flight engineer for Expedition 47, then will transition over to commander of Expedition 48 in early June after the departure of Tim Kopra, Yuri Malenchenko, and Tim Peake. During his 3 previous flights, Williams has logged over 362 days in space, and that includes more than 19 hours across 3 spacewalks. So this mission will be Williams' third long-duration stay on board the station, the first for an American. And he'll be serving his nearly 6 months aboard the ISS with another seasoned flyer, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Skoropochka, who's going to be making his second journey into space today. He was selected as a cosmonaut in 1997, and he first flew into space on October of 2010 aboard the first of the Soyuz TMA-M series, TMA-01M, coincidentally along with Scott Kelly and cosmonaut Alexander Kaleri. During his time on board the space station as a flight engineer of Expedition 25 and 26, Skoropochka performed 3 spacewalks totaling 16 hours and 40 minutes. He'll be serving as a flight engineer for both Expeditions 47 and 48. But then commanding the Soyuz today is going to be Russian cosmonaut Alexei Ovchinin. He's going to be venturing into space for the first time today. Ovchinin served as an instructor pilot at the ISK Air Force Pilot School, and then as an air flight commander at the Krasnodar Aviation Institute from 1992 to 1998. He later served as an air flight commander of the 70th Test Training Air Regiment, where he flew Yak-52 and L-39 aircraft, logging over 1,300 hours of flight time. Ovchinin was selected as a cosmonaut candidate back in October of 2006 and qualified as a test cosmonaut in June of 2009. He'll also be a flight engineer during Expeditions 47 and 48. For now, we're still on track for an on-time liftoff today at 4:26 p.m. Central, 5:26 p.m. Eastern, and 3:26 a.m. Baikonur time tomorrow morning. During the climb to orbit, tracking and telemetry from the Soyuz vehicle is downlinked to the ground stations along the flight path and is routed to the launch control bunker near the launch pad in Baikonur, and then, of course, out to the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. The flight is controlled from the bunker until shutdown of the third stage engine, when it's then transitioned to the Russian Flight Control Center. Just seconds after the Soyuz reaches orbit, the vehicle's command and control system will be activated, and then stored computer commands will deploy navigation and communications antennas, and the solar arrays will be deployed to collect power for use by the onboard batteries to generate electricity for the Soyuz systems. The first antennas to be deployed will be the Kurs rendezvous and docking antennas, which will be used to provide automatic range and rate of closure information on the final approach by the Soyuz for its docking just a few hours after launch to the POUCO module. And then immediately after reaching orbit, also, the crew will oversee the programmed activation sequence of a variety of systems just before the spacecraft passes out of range of Russian ground stations. Some of those systems include the spacecraft's power supply system, its radio communications system, and the critical motion control system. And during the first orbit of today's flight, the Soyuz will automatically execute the first of two several orbital adjustment burns planned as the vehicle fine-tunes its path to the International Space Station. So continuing to get live views of the pad out in Baikonur again, Williams, Skorpocha, and Ovchinin inside of the Soyuz spacecraft. They've been suited up for several hours now.
Okay, please, quick.
And the crew was awakened at about 7:25 a.m. Central Time this morning, which was right at about 6:25 p.m. local time in Baikonur, just 9 hours prior to their launch. Crew members then participated in a lot of the final pre-launch activities. Before departing for the launch pad, the three crew members all observed the long-standing tradition of autographing the doors of the Cosmonaut Hotel in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, where all of the crew members stay in their final weeks right before launch. For Jeff Williams, this will be his third time signing one of the doors as he's getting ready for his third long-duration mission on board the International Space Station.
This way.
And then the crew members, much like the rocket, get a final blessing from a Russian Orthodox priest. Just earlier this week, he was out at the launch pad where he blessed the rocket, the pad, and members of the media in attendance here, giving one final blessing to the crew members. And then, of course, it was time for their walkout and their departure from the Cosmonaut Hotel. At around 10:25 a.m. Central Time this morning, 9:25 p.m. In Baikonur, they departed the Cosmonaut Hotel in order to board a bus to ride to the Integration and Suit-Up Facility, also referred to as Building 254 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Here they get a chance to wave farewell to well-wishers, any guests, family in attendance. This won't be the last time they'll get a chance to see them, but the last time they'll get to see them.
Like this.
Crew members typically walk out to the same song every single time, roughly translated to "The Green Grass Near My Home" by a Russian band, the Earthlings, which speaks of a cosmonaut's love for planet Earth. Here you can again see Jeff Williams waving farewell. Members of the media also gather here typically to see the crew members off. And again, that departure coming at about 9:25 p.m. in the evening, just a few hours after their wake up, boarding the bus and heading over to the Integration and Suit Up facility. Here you can see them arriving at Building 254. They arrived at about 11:10 a.m. Central Time, 10:22 p.m. In Baikonur, so 11:22 a.m. Central. Each of the crew up in their SOCIAIS launch and entry suits. The suits then get pressurized just to ensure the integrity of their seals, but you can see them being helped out by the technicians here at the Integration and Suit Up facility. Each of them getting suited up in these SOCIAIS suits. They'll be in these for several hours, both before and during all of the launch activities. Typically, they're not going to get out of these suits until they've docked to the International Space Station 6 hours after launch, with the nominal one-day rendezvous profile that this Soyuz is going to be following. Here you can see Alexei Ovchinin getting suited up first. Alex Kropotchka, one of the veterans of the crew today.
This is how it should be. You can don it now.
Just a reminder, the crew members also do leak checks once they're on board the Soyuz vehicle and the suits get pressurized. Those leak checks were reported successful and complete at about 3 p.m. Central Time by Russian flight controllers. And here Jeff Williams getting suited up. This is, again, the third flight on board a Soyuz vehicle for Jeff Williams. He's going to become the first NASA astronaut to do a long-duration stay on board the station in history, so a very monumental flight for a very veteran crew member from NASA's astronaut corps.
Okay, you're ready?
Again, once suited up, the suits then get pressurized to ensure the integrity of all of the seals on the suits. The actual suit-up activities began at around 11:55 a.m. Central Time, 10:55 p.m. in Baikonur, which is about 4.5 hours just prior to launch. And there you can see the backup crew in attendance as well. NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough, Jeff Williams backup for this crew. Jeff Williams famously was the backup for Scott Kelly during his one-year mission, and should Kelly have not been able to go, Williams would have been called up to do that one-year stay. But now, just a year later, in March of 2016, launching for his 6-month stay on board the station. And again, this just some views of those suits getting pressurized just to, again, ensure all of the integrity. Looking at them through this pane of glass on the other side, typically the friends and family that you can see here gather to wave, and they'll get one final chance to talk to the crew members.
Can you hear him? When the time is up, you won't be able to talk to him. I'm sure that you will do your best. I'm sure.
Again, all the friends and family typically gather, those that are here for the launch in this room to
fine.
say some final
9 kilograms.
words to the crew members before they're off to the rocket.
Are you scared at all?
Ваша воля, наверное, получилась. Это регулятор давления.
Папа, а что у тебя вот за карабин?
Dad, what is that? What are these tubes for? This one and that one. What are they for?
Слева трубы это вентилятор.
On the left,
И подача кислорода.
they're oxygen supply and ventilation lines,
Через них связь.
and on the right, they're communication tethers.
One more and then I'll start the countdown.
Stay old, buddy. You look like a million bucks, man. A lot is proud of you. Proud of you. And I'll be taking the message home. So, have a safe flight. And I'll see you soon. No worries. I'm rooting for you, man. All right. Говори погромче, мой хороший.
I'm looking forward to my phone call here and there.
You bet.
Можем копить.
Alexei, look here. Bye-bye.
Хорошо.
Да, слышал?
Фото сделайте.
Let's take a photograph. Take a photograph.
But you know, it is just his job. We're happy he takes good care of
Большое вам спасибо, что вы
Thank you very much, everyone.
наш
Dear colleagues,
почетно.
we're honored to be here, especially in this year, in the year when we're celebrating the 55th anniversary of the first flight to space, human flight to space.
Всего самого наилучшего.
I wish you all the best in your lives, and we'll be back soon. Exactly. Today is March 18th, to form the first spacewalk, so it's very symbolic.
And that was the daughter of Sergei Korolyov, commonly known as the chief designer, one of the principal architects of manned spaceflight.
It is a very responsible moment in your lives. I wish you good luck, all the best, Godspeed.
Хочу пожелать вам
Alexei, Oleg, and Jeffrey,
удачного
I want to wish you a successful flight,
и
soft landing,
полностью
good docking, and I'm sure that you will perform the entire flight program successfully.
работать в ракетах.
And you know that all specialists who are working in the space industry have done a lot for this flight to become a reality. And they keep doing everything to ensure the success of your flight. I want to wish you a good launch. And I want to tell you that the hardware is ready.
Exciting research activities occurring, but enjoy yourself and take very good care of the space station for us.
Alexei, Oleg, Jeffrey, have a good lunch and all the best to you. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you. Godspeed. Good luck.
And just there getting words from Igor Komarov, the head of Roscosmos, and Bill Gerstmeyer, the AA for Human Exploration Operations for NASA. But again, once the suit-up activities were completed, pressure in the suits verified to be airtight, the crew was ready to depart for the launch pad. again, the crew walking down, departing the site of 254, waving farewell to everyone. And again, among those guests, the daughter of Sergei Korolyov, who you saw the crew speaking to. Korolyov, some would say the father of the Russians' human spaceflight program.
Soyuz TMA 2720M are ready for the flight. All right, Alexei, turn left. Raise your hands, wave. Jeff, look here. Bye-bye, all the best. Godspeed. Good luck, good luck.
And after a few final words and a few final waves, Williams, Ovchinin, and Skrzydło were departing Building 254 and making their way to the launch pad. They boarded their bus at about 1:25 p.m. Central Time, 12:25 in the morning in Baikonur for the ride out to launch pad number 1. Again, that's the same pad that Yuri Gagarin flew off the Earth on April 12th, 1961, just about 55 years ago, kicking off the era of human spaceflight. The drive took about 25 minutes. The crew members arrived at the pad at 1:50 p.m. Central Time, 12:50 in the morning in Baikonur. The crew members in their SOCO launch and entry suits get a helping hand off the bus and over to the pad before they can move onto the elevator and move up into the capsule.
Mr. Chairman, the crew of the Soyuz vehicle has successfully arrived to the launch pad and we're ready for the flight. This way, please. This way, no rush. Attention, please. Smile. Oleg, all the best.
And then once on the stairs, the crew members waving a final goodbye at the pad just before they boarded the elevator for the ride to the top of the Soyuz rocket to board their capsule. Soyuz rocket billowing oxygen there in the background was fueled just about 3 hours prior to launch. And again, they boarded the elevator and made their way to the top so they could be strapped in to the capsule. They've been on board now for about an hour and a half. Ovchinin, the commander, in the center seat of the Soyuz. To his left, Oleg Skrzydło, and the right seat, Jeff Williams. So welcome back to a live look at the Soyuz rocket and our live coverage of the launch of Williams, Ovchinin, and Skrzydło to the International Space Station. At this point, you can see the launch pad service structures components have been lowered. The clamshell gantry service towers have been retracted in preparation for launch. And as mentioned, those suit leak checks were completed successfully at about 3:25 p.m. Central Time. And at this point now, the emergency escape system has been armed. This escape tower able to fire in the event of a problem during the launch or the initial ascent. The system designed to pull the spacecraft and the crew clear of the booster, enabling the Soyuz capsule to then parachute to a safe landing in the event of an emergency during the launch or the early stages of the climb to orbit. The Soyuz rocket itself stands 162 feet tall and weighs in at 680,000 pounds and consists of the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft inside of a protective shroud at the top and the three-stage Soyuz FG booster below. The Soyuz spacecraft was mated to its booster, and the three stages were joined together on Tuesday. And the entire rocket was transported by rail car to the launch pad, starting at about 6 a.m. Baikonur time on Wednesday. It was then hoisted to its vertical position several hours later at 8 p.m. Baikonur time that evening, after they had to deal with some pretty adverse winds. Emblazoned upon this Soyuz rocket is an image of Yuri Gagarin, a tribute to 2016 being the 55th anniversary of his launch aboard Vostok as the first human in space in April of 1961. The Soyuz spacecraft, with its 3 crew members, sits high above the 3 stages of the Soyuz booster, which uses kerosene and liquid oxygen as the propellant. The first stage has 4 liquid-cooled engines strapped to the side of the core vehicle. Each of those will burn for about 1 minute 58 seconds before they drop away. The Soyuz engines will fire for several seconds before liftoff, not actually leaving the pad until the thrust of the Soyuz is enough to overwhelm the counteracting weights holding the rocket in place. Again, those first stage strap-on rockets will fire for about 1 minute 58 seconds, and then they'll drop 58 seconds, and then they'll drop away. At that point, the rocket will be about 30 miles altitude and downrange 73 miles, traveling at a velocity of 3,937 miles per hour. The core engine of the first stage also serves as the second stage. It continues to burn until 4 minutes 57 seconds into the flight. Altitude at that point 103 miles, downrange distance 179 miles, and a velocity of over 8,600 miles per hour. The third stage has just one single engine that will ignite just before separation of the second stage, helping to push it away and then burning for 8 minutes 45 seconds into the flight. At that point, the Soyuz will be in its preliminary orbit of 143 by 118 miles. Again, then the solar arrays and all the antennas will deploy. The Soyuz will begin its chase down of the International Space Station. Getting a live look again at the pad, Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skropochka on board the spacecraft. Launch preparations going smoothly. Launch still scheduled at 4:26 p.m. Central Time this afternoon, 3:26 a.m. in Baikonur tomorrow. So just less than half an hour from now, 27 minutes and counting. Today's launch is going to mark the 11th time that a Soyuz vehicle is scheduled to dock to the orbiting complex the exact same day, docking only 4 orbits or about 6 hours after today's launch. Just 3 minutes and 11 seconds before launch, the space station is going to fly directly over the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, and at the time of launch, the station will already be at an altitude of about 251 statute miles over northeastern Kazakhstan. And that launch precisely timed for the moment when the Earth's rotation will place the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the plane of the orbit of the space station. And then at the time of the spacecraft's orbital insertion, again just 8 minutes and 45 seconds after launch, the station will already be 894 statute miles ahead as the rendezvous begins. The planned 6-hour rendezvous will culminate with docking to the space station's POUCO module, scheduled to take place at 10:11 p.m. Central Time tonight, 9:11 a.m. in Baikonur, where Russian and American dignitaries, guests, and family of the crew will be watching the events unfold on television. Should any issues occur in the first 2.5 hours of the flight, the Soyuz vehicle and its crew can default to a 2-day rendezvous at 6:59 p.m. Central Time on March 20th. So atop the rocket, with the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft, again, Williams, Ovchinin, and Oleg Skropochka, now just 25 minutes, just under 26 minutes away from launch. The whole Soyuz spacecraft itself is 23.5 feet long, weighs in at 15,650 pounds, and is comprised of 3 separate modules. The descent module, which is located right in the middle of the Soyuz, contains customized seats for each of the crew members that they're in during launch, entry, and landing. It contains all of the controls and displays necessary for the flight. It also contains life support systems, batteries for the re-entry and landing, and the parachutes and soft landing rocket engines to slow the Soyuz just before touchdown when it lands in Kazakhstan. There are 8 hydrogen peroxide thrusters located on the module that are used to control the spacecraft's orientation or attitude. during the descent until parachute deployment. Also has a guidance, navigation, and control system to maneuver the vehicle during the descent phase of the mission. It weighs in at just a little under 6,400 pounds with a habitable volume of 141 cubic feet, so a bit of a tight squeeze for 3 people in full spacesuits. Approximately 110 pounds of payload can be returned to Earth in this module, and it is, of course, the only portion that survives the return to Earth. Through the hatch on top, though, you'll find the orbital module, which is connected via a pressurized hatch, and it's where the crew has a small amount of room to move around during the flight to the station, typically only used during ascents if they're on that 2-day rendezvous. It has a volume of about 230 cubic feet, with the docking mechanism, hatch, and rendezvous antennas located at the front end. The docking mechanism, of course, used to dock with the space station, and the hatch allowing entry into the orbiting complex. And those rendezvous antennas are used by the automated docking system known as CORS, which uses radar to maneuver towards the station for docking. There's also a forward-looking window in the module that the crew can use to take any manual measurements of distance and closing speed, with the laser rangefinder in the system of a failure with that radar system. Also has things like the toilet, drinking water, other things for the crew. And then finally, the propulsion module houses the oxygen storage tanks, the main engines, and then the attitude control thrusters, avionics, and communications and control equipment. Propulsion portion of this module handles all of the orbital maneuvers, including those needed for the rendezvous with the space station and the deorbit burn at the end of the spacecraft's mission. And then right before they're deployed, the 2 solar arrays are folded against the body of the propulsion module, which separates from the descent module after the deorbit burn along with the orbital module, those solar panels spanning in at almost 35 feet. So the entire spacecraft serving not only as a crew transport vehicle to and from the International Space Station, but also as an emergency return vehicle in the event the crew should have to leave the station unexpectedly. And the mission of the Soyuz TMA-20M will mark the last scheduled launch of the TMA-M series. The first TMA-01 coincidentally also had Oleg Skripochka on board when it flew back in October of 2010. The debut of the M series marked a major redesign of the TMA vehicle, including a newer and lighter digital computer, removal of obsolete equipment, and changes to the spacecraft's materials, all of which resulted in a mass of 154 pounds lighter than the previous version. Of course, weight is king when it comes to spaceflight, so a very big leap forward. The newest Soyuz designated MS will make its debut at the launch of Kate Rubins, Anatoly Ivanishin, and Takuya Onishi aboard Soyuz MS-01 this June. And then upgrades in that MS series are expected to include more efficient solar panels, an integrated command and telemetry system for use with the Russian tracking and data relay satellite system, integrated GPS and GLONASS navigation hardware, allowing all onboard navigation and calculation of rendezvous burns independent of these ground tracking stations, and then an upgraded CORS NA rendezvous antenna, along with a number of other interface upgrades. So continuing now to get that live view of the Soyuz on the launch pad in Baikonur, everything still on track for a launch just 21.5 minutes from now at 4:26 p.m. Central, 3:26 a.m. Baikonur. So a group of NASA representatives are there in Baikonur, just a short distance away from the launch pad. For a quick update on activities there, let's go now to NASA Public Affairs Officer Rob Navius.
Dan, good afternoon to you from the Central Asian Desert, where we are in the midst of a freezing morning on the cusp of spring, settling in for the first launch of the year of an expedition crew to the International Space Station. Just 2.5 weeks after the completion of the one-year mission of Kelly and Kornienko, Williams, Ovchinin, and Skripochka are aboard their Soyuz vehicle less than a mile from our viewing site. This pre-dawn launch representing the third launch for the Russian space industry from this cosmodrome in just 6 days. NASA is represented here in Baikonur by Bill Gerstenmaier, the Associate Administrator for Human Exploration Operations, and ISS Deputy Program Manager Dan Hartman. The head of Roscosmos, Igor Komarov, is here as well, along with a number of invited guests and family members of the crew. Those family members will gather back in the town of Baikonur a few hours from now to watch the docking of the Soyuz TMA-20M to the station before we make our way back to Moscow. The final flight of the Soyuz TMA-class vehicle is on tap, and we have it all right here for you. That's it from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Now back to you, Dan, at Mission Control in Houston.
And thanks for that live look out at the pad. The current crew of the International Space Station, all hailing from 3 different nations, and a reflection of the spirit of international cooperation that has brought the world's most complex spacecraft together as a 21st century scientific marvel. An international partnership of space agencies from the United States, Russia, Europe, Japan, and Canada have worked together for more than 15 years on the most complex space exploration program ever undertaken.
It took 41 rocket launches just to bring the building materials to the construction site, and more than 100 other launches along the way to ferry up the human crew members and deliver the supplies they would need to live and work. And construction project in human history. And it wouldn't have been if the nations of the world hadn't joined forces. But they did. And that cooperative spirit is alive and thriving right now on board the International Space Station. The major space agencies of the world each have their own independent exploration program. Yet they work together on one project that's vital to humankind's future in space. Operating a joint research laboratory and technology development station 250 miles above the Earth. The United States, Russia, Japan, Canada, and the nations of crew members who operate this space station.
We have come to know each other very well, to really enjoy each other's company, enjoy working together. I consider them very close friends.
При нашем взаимодействии внутри корабля мы отталкиваемся прежде всего от целей и задач, почему именно мы сидим в этом корабле. И поэтому у нас никаких особых проблем во взаимодействии, никаких нет, в силу нашей профессиональной способности.
I think each country has its unique strengths and good part, and also a weakness. So if we cooperate each other, we can cover the other nations' weak part and help each other.
Over the years, the partners have contributed the vehicles that bring human beings to orbit, and the ones that make regular deliveries of supplies and materials, plus all the hardware and samples to operate a set of scientific laboratories and experiments that are achieving things that couldn't be done on Earth. The results, in terms of science and technology development, are out of this world.
Having different perspectives, either different scientific perspectives, different international perspectives, has helped bring strength to the work that we do. We've gotten to work with some incredible people around the globe, and that we found what we think are some significant findings.
The alpha magnetic spectrometer is a high-energy particle physics experiment designed to study cosmic rays, antimatter, dark matter, and dark energy. There's 15 countries, about 600 engineers, physicists, scientists, technicians, about 60 different institutes, universities, all over the planet. You get the interaction of all these people, and in the end, you have something that's a whole lot better than what you have done by yourself.
Each space agency takes responsibility for a part of the mission by operating a control room in their own country, which focuses on daily operations in their own labs and modules. The heart of the overall operation is at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston, where a team coordinates what all the partners are doing.
The Expedition team takes all of the requirements handed down from the ISS program, from the international partners, from the flight control team, and from the science community. And we integrate all of those requirements into a timeline, and we uplink it to the crew, and that's how the crew knows what to do on a given day.
With all that effort, Over all these years, the partners in the International Space Station have created something that's already provided benefits on Earth and encouraged the growth of a commercial space industry, and is perfectly positioned to continue that mission, supporting future human exploration into deep space.
If you think about all the capability that's on the space station today, it brought out the best in each of the partners. The only way for exploration to be successful is to have that global partnership together, as we have had so far with the space station.
We're going to use the technology of the ATV, 5 very successful ISS resupply missions, to make this incredible contribution to the Orion spacecraft. So the service module will be a very critical part to the Orion spacecraft. It will provide power, it will provide thermal control, and most importantly, it will provide propulsion to the crew module.
Building on the robotics technology we developed to support the space shuttle program and then to assemble the space station, Canada's developed a next-generation Canadarm. This is a state-of-the-art suite of robotics prototypes that will be able to support the critical next steps in exploring the solar system.
У нас в России есть такая поговорка, что один ум хорошо, а 2 еще лучше. Но 2 и 3 это гораздо лучше, потому что, работая в кооперации международной, люди гораздо лучше начинают понимать друг друга.
Better understanding and a common goal combine for a great future out there.
Back now with a live view of the Soyuz on the launch pad in Baikonur. We are 13 and a half minutes before launch, with the liftoff still scheduled for 4:26 p.m. Central Time, 3:26 a.m. Baikonur. And again, all the pre-launch conditions continuing to go as expected, all the checks being completed by the numbers so far, marching towards that launch. NASA astronaut Jeff Williams has been in training for more than 2 years for this, his 4th space flight, and his 3rd long-duration mission on board the International Space Station. 2 weeks ago, we had a chance to talk with him while he was in Star City, Russia, about his level of preparedness for his upcoming mission and what he's looking forward to during his 6-month stay.
Yeah, I feel very ready to be going back to the space station. The training process that we have is very good. It's very mature now. We've I think made it more effective and efficient over the years, and it continues to be improved all the time. So I feel very prepared to go. I am very confident that my crewmates are prepared and ready to go, and we're looking forward to a great mission.
Tell me about what you're looking forward to, whether it's operational highlights or some special experiments that you're going to work on this time.
Well, this will be the first time that I'm not engaged with the assembly of the space station. As you know, it's long been complete, so now it's in full utilization mode. So I'm looking forward to experiencing the space station in that phase of its lifetime. Of course, we have a wide variety of experiments that we're anticipating. To include experiments from across the spectrum of the different science disciplines. I'm looking forward, in particular, to some of the experiments that are studies of the human body, and to understand the effects of the environment on the human body, so that we can develop countermeasures to support future exploration. I'm looking forward also to a couple. One to integrate a docking adapter to the space station, in preparation for the future commercial crewed vehicles that are planned to fly in the next few years to rotate crews from American soil. So I'm looking forward to that. Of course, this will be a new crew combination that I'm flying with, and that's always good. I've counted it up recently, and I think I've been on orbit at the space station with 45 different people over the years. Both my 45 different people over the years, both my crewmates on station crews, as well as the shuttle crew, as well as visiting shuttle crews that that have come to the space station while I've been there. So this will add a few more folks to that list, and it's been a real highlight of my career and my life to be able to share this magnificent experience with those folks.
You're about to become the first American to launch on a third long-duration mission to this station. Does getting ready for it get easier as you go along?
It gets easier maybe in that there's no surprises in the process. You're just repeating the preparations, getting mostly refresher trained on all of the different elements. So far it hasn't been as challenging as, say, the previous ones. In wife and family are ready to be separated from me, and of course me. Privileged to be part of history in the making with this program and space exploration in general. I think that perspective. But you're right. It has occurred to me in a more significant way in recent months, in particular, that I've been privileged to be part of the building of the space station from beginning all the way until now. Through the full utilization mode, and it has been just an amazing undertaking, an amazing human achievement that none of us, of course, take for granted. The people that I've had an opportunity over the 20 years now to work with in this endeavor, literally hundreds and perhaps thousands of people directly and indirectly, certainly in the thousands and tens of thousands. And in this international partnership, it's been a privilege to work with the folks and to continue to work with them. There's no place that I've seen in my lifetime that has a work environment like we have, where we're all on a team, we're all focused on a mission, we're all here because we believe it's important for the people of Earth.
And Jeff Williams getting ready to write the next chapter in his piece of the story of the International Space Station strapped into that Soyuz rocket. 7.5 minutes away from their scheduled liftoff at 4:26 p.m. Central, 3:26 a.m. Baikonur.
We copy. This is Burlaki 1 talking.
And again, you can see inside the capsule there in the center seat, Alexei Ovchinin, and you can see the small talisman there, a small toy owl chosen by him and given to him by his young daughter. You'll hear them referred to as Burlaki, chosen by Ovchinin in tribute to his old hometown of Rybinsk, Russia. Talking with the launch control bunker there in Baikonur.
Board, and of course, please report. Everything is nominal on board. Copy.
Getting good reports from the crew. You can see their helmets closed. Those closed at 4:16 p.m. Central. The crew strapped in, getting ready to go. We should get a report soon of the launch key being inserted in the launch bunker. And yes, they do get to use an actual key, and that'll transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. And we're 5 minutes 50 seconds and counting. Again, that's Ovchinin at the bottom of the screen. He's in the center seat. To his left is Oleg Skripochka making his second flight into space.
Wonderful. Launch key inserted.
And just got confirmation the launch key has been inserted at the launch bunker down there at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. 5 minutes, 20 seconds away from launch. And the weather cold, but otherwise somewhat clear down there. The wintry conditions in Baikonur, no impediment to the hardy Soyuz rocket being able to get off the ground and get this crew into space. Now just under 5 minutes away from launch. Soon all of the onboard systems will be switched over to onboard control.
Activated by Run 1 command. For Lucky 1, the crew is feeling fine. Everything is nominal on board. We copy. Combustion chamber nitrogen purge.
And so the Soyuz using nitrogen to purge the combustion chamber of any lingering gases that could be there from the propellant. So all of that just the fireproofing them, removing any vapors of the fuel and the oxidizer, getting it ready for launch. Just 4 minutes now and counting until liftoff. So at this point, the commander's cockpit displays and controls have been activated. Again, all the crew members closed their helmets just about 6 minutes ago, putting them on oxygen from the suit.
Onboard measurement system is activated by Run 2 command. Oxidize and fuel drains. Valves of launch vehicle are closed. Ground filling of oxygen and nitrogen to the vehicle terminated. Affirmative.
And so at this point, the ground feed of fuel and oxidizer to the Soyuz rocket has been terminated. One of the final steps before launch. We are under 3 minutes and counting. And just a few seconds ago, the station passing over the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan.
Pressurization initiated.
So the booster tanks now being pressurized for flight. This just to optimize the flow of fuel, help adding some structural support to the rocket itself. 2 minutes, 20 seconds away from launch. The crew on board reporting in good health, ready to go. All the crews standing there on the pad where just 55 years ago and about a month, Yuri Gagarin kicked off the age of human spaceflight. Jeff Williams moving forward. Under 2 minutes away from launch. You'll see the final 2 umbilical towers attached to the vehicle detached. The first one separated at about T-minus 35 seconds. Then the final one retracting at about T-minus 15 seconds. And again, the Soyuz engines will fire for several seconds until the thrust of the rocket is able to overpower the force of the holding arms, keeping the rocket in place. Very simple, but a very elegant way of keeping the rocket upright on the pad. 1 minute and counting.
Vehicle to internal power.
And the vehicle now on internal power.
For Lucky 1, everything is.
And there goes the first umbilical tower, marking just about T-minus 35. Should be under 30 seconds away from liftoff.
Order sequence initiated.
Auto sequence initiated.
Launch command issued for ignition.
Second arm retracting, launch command issued. You can see the engines firing, ramping up.
Flight speed. Engines at maximum thrust.
The turbo pumps are at flight speed, standing by.
Liftoff.
And liftoff. Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skropochka launching to the International Space Station. The first stage of the Soyuz booster delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from the 4 strap-on boosters and the single-core engine.
Nominal. We copy.
First stage going to be burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the flight, passing through the cloud layer. See the crew on board. Again, Alexei Ovchinin there in the center seat. Getting good reports of first stage functioning throughout the launch so far. Just 1 minute since liftoff.
60 seconds in powered flight. Your pitch and roll are nominal. Everything's nominal on board, Musk.
So as we approach 1 minute and 10 seconds into the flight, the velocity of the vehicle already at about 1,100 miles per hour. Again, everything continuing to go well with the ascent, lasting just under 9 minutes until these 3 crew members will be in space. You'll see that owl begin to float in the microgravity environment, an indicator reach their final altitude.
On board, and the crew is feeling well. Copy.
And then in just a few seconds, the strap-on boosters will be jettisoned. And the visiting vehicle officer here in Houston confirming the escape tower has been jettisoned, and those 4 strap-on boosters have also been jettisoned. They've completed their job and will now drop away. Soyuz already at an altitude of 28 statute miles, cruising along at a speed of about 3,350 miles per hour.
140 seconds into powered flight. The structure is nominal. We copy. Everything is fine on board. We are feeling fine. 002938. We selected inaudible. Affirmative.
And so the second stage now firing the core booster, continuing to push the vehicle along.
Is nominal.
And then getting confirmation now the launch shroud has been jettisoned. So the Soyuz spacecraft itself now exposed, the rocket already at an altitude of about 48 statute miles. And just a little over 3 minutes into the flight, the Soyuz already traveling at a speed of about 4,700 miles per hour. There we can see NASA astronaut Jeff Williams. This his 3rd ride on a Soyuz spacecraft, getting ready for his 4th flight into space, his 3rd long-duration mission on board the station.
200 seconds. 200 seconds. Engines of the second stage operate.
The second stage, as expected, the core stage of the Soyuz rocket measures 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter, with a single engine with 4 fuel chambers, providing between 178,000 and 222,000 pounds of thrust, depending on the altitude of the rocket, for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. It's going to continue burning for about another 45 seconds or so until the 4-minute, 43-second mark. Then Soyuz will use what's known as a hot stage technique. The 3rd stage will actually ignite while the 2nd's still burning. That's why the Soyuz has that between the 2nd and 3rd stages.
Everything is fine on board. The crew is doing well. On board. The crew is doing well. 0033. 38 R1. Command is to be issued.
And all reports coming from Russian flight controllers indicating the vehicle in good health. for the execution of that third stage. And getting confirmation of second stage separation, a bit of a jolt there. The third stage now propelling the vehicle with its single engine. This engine provides about 67,000 pounds of thrust. It's going to burn for 4 minutes and 2 seconds.
003138, Romeo 11 is selected. Copy. Observing.
So already over 5 minutes into the flight, the Soyuz already at an altitude of over 105 miles.
20 seconds. Structure nominal. Copy. Burlak 1. The crew is doing well. Copy.
And again, this third stage, the final stage of the Soyuz and its climb to orbit, is going to fire until about 8 minutes 45 seconds post liftoff. So about another 2 3/4 of a minute until the third stage is going to be done with its job. And then at that point, the single liquid fueled engine will cut off and drop away. But again, everything, all the calls coming in, the vehicle performing as expected, not tracking any issues, and the crew on board in good health and making their way towards the International Space Station. And also, again, once the third stage delivers the Soyuz to orbit, the module separates away. A series of pre-programmed commands will spring into action in order to prepare the Soyuz for orbital operations. That includes deploying the computer commands to activate systems on board the Soyuz spacecraft.
25:56, we are expecting separation. And the crew is doing well. Thank you.
And we're just about 7 minutes now post-launch, so another minute 45 seconds for this third stage until its separation. At this point, the vehicle 15,500 miles per hour.
For 60 seconds, structure nominal. Burlak 1, copy. Burlak 1, copy. There's fine on board, the crew is doing fine. Copy. $490 seconds. Inaudible. Nominal flight.
So just about 25 seconds away from that third stage cutoff and separation. You can see the crew on board the Soyuz still doing well. Keep your eye on that owl, showing in just a few seconds actually.
Expecting separation at 00:35:27. Copy.
And you can see the jolt. The third stage has now separated. The single liquid-fueled engine shut down and dropping away in an altitude of about 125 statute miles. The third stage performs an avoidance maneuver by opening a valve in its liquid oxygen tank.
Mission Control Moscow, how do you read us? Burlaki, Mission Control Moscow, you are loud and clear. How was separation nominal in time as scheduled, everything's fine on board.
And getting word from the visiting vehicle officer, all antennas and the solar arrays have deployed. So all of those pre-programmed commands executed successfully. The cores and telemetry antennas out and the solar arrays deployed to begin providing power to the Soyuz spacecraft systems. Again, it's set on an altitude of about 125 statute miles. It's going to orbit at an altitude of about 143 by 118 miles. But this orbit, of course, is going to be raised systematically over the course of the next 6 hours, placing it in close proximity to the International Space Station.
Issued. Copy.
And control of the spacecraft from here on out will be overseen by the flight controllers of the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. But again, getting good confirmation from our visiting vehicle officer here in Houston, the antennas and solar arrays on the vehicle have deployed.
We can see in POUCO display. We can see rendezvous display.
And this is a look at the control panel on board the Soyuz spacecraft. You can see data already coming down to the ground.
On pressure checks. We copy.
So again, the flight controllers in Mission Control Moscow now responsible for overseeing the Soyuz spacecraft, which has made it a flawless flight into orbit. Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skropochka now in space orbiting planet Earth and ready for their racetrack around until they catch up with the International Space Station for their docking just about 6 hours from now.
Burlak 1, we're ready for the first measurements on pressure checks, ready to copy. At 3900, 11 parameter 591, number 12.
And so now the crew members executing the first of several commands that they'll give the vehicle to begin sending it on its way to the International Space Station. There are a number of rendezvous burns that it will execute to catch up with the station. The first of those coming up in just about 30 minutes from now at 5:12 p.m. Central Time. And then another one coming at the just about the top of the hour after that at 5:56 p.m. They'll execute 2 more burns before the automated rendezvous and docking period will start, and then executing a number of impulses to begin catching up with the International Space Station. And that docking, again, scheduled to take place at 10:11 p.m. Central Time tonight, 11:11 p.m. Eastern.
17, even. 25. 17.2. 26. 271. How copy? Propellant 879. Burlak 1 to Mission Control Moscow. We have a raw course test right now at 4037. MS3 started. EKV coordinates built up.
Как оцениваете построение ориентации ПВСК?
Good luck, one. Visually,
Вижу землю только в 4 периферийных окнах.
I can see visual. I can see visual vertical nominally built, and in 4 windows I can see the Earth. Now, on page 30, expecting display monitoring from you. This third, okay, we completed the second course test, and the first course test is in progress at the moment.
So again, the Soyuz TMA-20M space and Alex Kropotchka on board and ready to chase down the International Space Station. Just to give you a look at the series of events coming up here on NASA TV, immediately following this broadcast, we'll be giving you some launch replays, and that'll be followed by a post-launch video file coming up at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to break away from our live coverage while the Soyuz executes its 4-orbit 6-hour rendezvous with the station, resuming our docking coverage at 9:30 p.m. Central for the anticipated docking at 10:11 p.m. Central, when the Soyuz will be docking to the POUCO module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment. And once the vehicle's docked, we'll break away while they execute a series of leak checks, coming back on for hatch opening coverage at 11:30 p.m. Central. The hatch is scheduled to 5 p.m., so just before midnight. So it'll be a late one for those following here in the States, but we'll be ready to welcome 3 new crew members on board the International Space Station. Again, of course, our Soyuz post-docking video file will be at 1:30 a.m., showing the highlights from all of the day, from launch all the way through docking, hatch opening, and the welcoming of the crew members on board. So be sure to stick around. For replays of that. The launch done successfully right on time at 4:26 p.m. Central, 5:26 p.m. Eastern, 3 morning over there in Baikonur. So we're going to break away and our live coverage for a little bit, but we'll be back in just a few hours when the Soyuz gets ready to dock to the International Space Station. So be sure to join us again there. Thanks for joining us for our coverage of today's launch, and we'll see you in a few hours. For now, though, we will go ahead and sign off. This is Mission Control Houston. engines firing, ramping up.
Flight speed. Engines at maximum thrust.
The turbo pumps are at flight speed, standing by.
Liftoff.
And liftoff. Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skropochka launching to the International Space Station. The first stage of the Soyuz booster delivering 930,000 pounds of thrust from the 4 strap-on boosters and the single-core engine. First stage going to be burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds into the flight.